Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode until the question and answer session of today's call. At that time, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1. Today's conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, please disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the meeting over to Kristen Evans. You may begin.
Hello. I would like to thank you all for joining us today for our first webinar in our Community College webinar series hosted by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. My name is Kristen Evans, and I'm the Acting Section Chief for Students and Young Consumers at the CFPB. I am joined by two wonderful speakers, Amy Conrad from the National Endowment for Financial Education and Sharon Worm from the Truckee Meadows Community College. We've put together a webinar for community college staff, librarians, and other professionals in the higher education field. So our topic today is about general financial education resources. So I'm going to kick off the webinar to talk a little bit about the financial education resources that we have available at the CFPB. But first, I have to do our standard legal disclaimer as a government employee that what I'm saying does not constitute legal interpretation, guidance, or advice, and any opinion stated by the presenters or the presenters' own and may not represent the Bureau's views. And also with our guest speakers, that we are not affiliated and do not endorse any speakers or entities participating in this presentation. Okay. So with that, we'll move on. I'm going to briefly give an overview of the CFPB. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, was created following the financial crisis. And so we are fairly new. We're about 7 years old now, and we're a federal agency that works to empower, enforce, and educate consumers. We help consumer finance markets work by making rules and enforcing those rules. We also educate by creating tools, answering common questions, and provide tips that help consumers navigate their financial choices. So I'm from a division that focuses on educating and engaging consumers so they can make more informed financial decisions. The division also focuses on several specific populations, including service members and veterans, those who are economically disadvantaged, as well as older Americans. So I'm from a section for students and young consumers that focuses on that specific population, which could include young adults who are thinking about attending post-secondary education, or those who have already attended or graduated or in repayment status on their student loans. We help students and young adults to manage their money, build credit, save and pay for college, and repay student debt. So I wanted to kick off this webinar by giving a bit of background into the specific population of students and young adults. More parents and young adults are beginning to save for college. And recent studies have shown that the percentage of Americans saving for college has increased considerably since 2009. But it still means that less than half, or about 41%, are setting aside money for their children's education. Plus, only a small fraction of students receive a sizable amount of scholarship money. This means that we can expect a sizable share of students will need to consider financing their degree. And in that same study, they found that 45% of young adults have a student loan. And on average, they graduate with $30,000 in student loan debt. So students and other young adults are at the stage of their life when they're entering the financial marketplace for the first time. They are starting to use or think about financial products and services and maybe building credit. But young adults continue to struggle to meet their current financial obligations. And about a third of young adults receive financial help from a family member and have very little savings or no savings at all. This leads to about a half of student loan borrowers to feel financially constrained and stressed when it comes to repaying their student loans. This stress may also be exacerbated by the fact that many students may not know the difference between federal and private student loans or how to calculate their monthly payment before they begin repaying. This fear and stress has led to regret for some student loan borrowers, and more than half said they would change their choice about taking out student loans. This is where financial education could assist student loan borrowers and young adults to have the confidence to act on their own financial situation. Financial education experts say that providing consumers with information is only part of the solution. Being able to manage their own financial life requires a combination of knowledge and skills. Consumers need to be able to analyze the cost, risk, and consequences of particular financial products or services, and they also need to know where to go for help. So we've heard from student loan borrowers that student debt can impact their personal lives. For instance, they may delay getting married or forming a family, buying a house, or even saving for retirement. Student loan debt may also have an impact on their job choices after graduation. They may be less likely to start a business due to the strain of a student loan payment. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk about the financial education resources that we have available to help students and young adults. The CFPB provides a series of web tools to help them plan for their financial lives. These web tools focus on big financial decisions, but also those smaller life decisions that can have a big impact. So on the next slide, you will see a screen grab of our Paying for College tool. For many, how to pay for college is one of the first major financial decisions they will make. So to assist these potential students, our Paying for College tool helps students make more informed decisions about financing their college education and repaying their loans. It also helps prospective borrowers walk through some important questions to navigate paying and financing college. This tool could be used by community colleges working with students as they prepare to take out student loans and even prepare for the upcoming semester. As we'll get to in later slides, the tool also helps students make comparisons between financial aid offers. It provides information and advice for optimizing how to repay their loans, and student financial guide on choosing a loan and managing their money. So the first guide in our Paying for College tool is a guide on how to pay for college and choose a loan. The tool walks through some key questions when you're starting to think about taking out a loan, such as the different types of loan options from federal loans to private loans. It provides tips on how to fill out the FAFSA form. It also reminds people to exhaust federal student loan options before turning to private student loans. It also goes into detail into other topics such as things to consider when determining how much to borrow or information on alternatives to private student loans. We also offer a comparison tool that allows students to compare the cost of college and financial aid offers from different higher education institutions. This would be a great tool for community colleges to recommend to students who may be exploring to further their education beyond community college. It allows students to input costs of attendance and financial aid packages, including their federal student aid, their private funding sources, and scholarships, and we can do that for up to 3 schools and allow students to compare the cost of each of those programs. So even before students apply to go to college, they can use this tool to help them decide which schools will be the best fit for them financially. Students can adjust how much financial aid they expect to get from a school, or compare how much their dream schools would cost if they got no financial aid at all. This allows students to have a better overall picture of their future financial burden when deciding which schools to actually apply, and may actually help students choose a school that allows them to take on less student loan debt. So this slide walks through our Repay Student Debt tool. Repay Student Debt, it provides information to students to understand what they need to do to repay their loans and how to do it. This tool will be particularly helpful for students who are just about to graduate or those who are already in repayment. The website provides what they can and cannot do while they're repaying their loans, especially if they're struggling. This tool also allows borrowers to consider their options by selecting different repayment scenarios that match their situation. This can be a benefit for student loan borrowers by providing advice related to their specific type of loans, like whether they're federal or private, and their general situation. It provides information on all the different repayment plans available to student loan borrowers. It also gives them options to postpone payments if they are financially struggling, and options to get out of default in dealing with debt collectors. It also provides information for those who may not be struggling, such as how to consolidate your loans, protections for service members who are deployed, and helpful advice to maintain repayment, such as setting up a direct debit or making extra payments toward their balance. Also within this suite of tools, we offer resources to young adults as they begin to explore opening up their first bank account. An important issue for young people is how to best manage their money while they're still in school. As I mentioned earlier, college students arrive on campus. They may be exploring financial products for the first time, and they may need information on how to open up their first bank account. They may need information on how to shop for a bank account, what fees they should expect or should avoid, and how to get their financial aid reimbursement into their new bank account if that applies to them. So this tool actually sets up a series of guided questions which allow a student to browse the information necessary to plan and act on opening up a new bank account. So the next resource I will talk about is Ask CFPB. This is a digital resource that provides consumers with answers to common money questions and provides information on how-to guides on specific money topics such as auto loans, credit reports and scores, debt collection, and mortgages. It has questions specifically for students, and you can sort by population, such as students, or even by product, like student loans. Community colleges and other professionals should feel free to send students to this page if they have a particular question. It's a great resource, and you can find it on our website, consumerfinance.gov. However, if you have a student that's not really sure what questions to ask or how to get started, we have a page, we put together a landing page for most of what the need-to-know questions related to student loans and borrowing student loans. The goal of this page is to surface the most critical information a student would need to know about paying for college or repaying student debt. Overall, the page can be used as a beginning place for financial newcomers and a place to quickly learn about the actions available to fix any issues they are facing. The page itself is broken down into two segments, one for students who are looking to take out student loans and another for students who already have student loans. This serves as a resource for student loan borrowers as they go through the complete financial life cycle of student loans, from borrowing to repayment. This wraps up this section on web tools for students and young adults, but I wanted to briefly cover some other resources that we have available. So the next resource I wanted to highlight will help students who may be thinking of taking a job in public service. There are a number of special repayment programs and forgiveness programs, particularly for student loan borrowers working for nonprofits, federal or state government, and in education. These resources would be beneficial for students who are thinking of taking a job in public service, but these resources may also be helpful for employees at community colleges, as many may qualify for these forgiveness programs. We offer a series of guides tailored to specific population, including service members, teachers, and first responders. These guides will walk through the requirements and criteria to qualify and apply for these forgiveness programs. These guides are also available on our website. I also want to highlight that the Bureau offers blogs and other consumer advisories on a series of topics on our website. I provided a select few of the blogs and consumer advisories related to students, but there are many more available on our website. I should also mention that many of our resources are available for ordering for free, either for print, download, or bulk ordering. Some are offered in other languages. While not all publications are available in every language, you should take a look because then you can browse our publications. You can do that by visiting the Government Printing Office link on this slide. Last but not least, I want to tell you about our Financial Education Exchange Program, or as we call it, FinEx for short. So FinEx is a way for the Bureau to share its tools and resources with others and learn from you all about what you're learning in your work. People can sign up through the website on this slide, or you can send us an email. So if you would like to receive additional information on our work, I would urge you to either visit this page to sign up, or you can send us an email to dfpb_FinEx, which is FINEX @cfpb.gov. So this concludes my portion of today's webinar. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Amy Conrad to talk more about work at the National Endowment for Financial Education. Take it away, Amy.
Thanks, Kristen. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Amy Marty Conrad, and I am the Managing Director of the Cash Course Program at the National Endowment for Financial Education. I'm calling today from the NEFI offices in Denver, Colorado, and I'm here to talk to you about the tools, resources, and research that NEFI provides that may be of use to you in your work. So as I said, I work for NEFI, the National Endowment for Financial Education. We are a nonprofit 501c3 private operating foundation based in Denver, and we are dedicated to improving the financial well-being of all Americans. So NEFI as a private foundation is in a really special place because we don't rely on public funds or any commercial donors or ties to do our work. So that means that everything that we do and all the resources and research that we produce is completely independent commercially and ideologically. NEFI started as the College for Financial Planning. So if you're familiar with the Certified Financial Planner designation, the College of Financial Planning started that program. And NEFI was created as its own foundation in 1992 and spun off as an independent organization in 1987. Some of the things that we do, we partner with nonprofit organizations and government entities to provide financial literacy resources to the people that they serve. As I said, we're completely independent financially, so we don't have affiliation with student loan companies or lenders or any kind of financial institution. And our focus is on three things: educational programs, research, and consumer awareness. Next slide. So as educators or volunteers or professionals, you have a desire to serve your audience with good information, but we know that you have limited time and resources. So NEFI has created out-of-the-box, non-commercial programs and resources for high schoolers all the way through retirement age people that you can use within your programming, picking and choosing what fits best for your audience and customizing things to work for the amount of time you have or the context in which the education is being delivered. So I just want to go through a couple of our programs today. This is not everything that we offer, but I felt that these were the most relevant to you as a community college professional. The first one we have is Cash Course at cashcourse.org. This is a resource for colleges and universities. Cash Course has two focuses: self-guided learning for students and educator materials. So our website offers quizzes, coursework modules, budgeting tools students can log on to and complete on their own. Whether or not they have some kind of assignment or requirement for school, they can go to Cash Course and learn anything they need to about their financial questions. And then our educator materials are designed for you as a staff person or a faculty member. We have an assignments feature where you can select modules that you'd like your students to complete as part of a class or a workshop, and then you can log in and track their scores to see how they performed on those modules. We also have workshop kits and marketing materials available for download, so if you're trying to get the word out about your programming or the things that you offer, we've made that very easy and simple to do with our ready-made materials. And our workshop kits are out of the box, so you don't have to spend a lot of time finding the information yourself. If you want to do an in-person activity or webinar, you can just download that kit and you're ready to get started. We also offer a campus planning workbook. So if you are brand new to the field of personal finance or financial education, NEFI has compiled our recommendations for effective models in doing campus financial literacy. Things like setting goals, selecting what kinds of material to use, marketing to students, and then evaluation. Cash Course covers the student experience beyond just borrowing. So we know that the student financial life is much more complex than just deciding how to pay for school. In many cases, for a community college audience, students are also working, or they have families, they have other commitments that they're balancing their academic experience with. So our content is very comprehensive. We cover 6 key areas aligned to the mymoney.gov standards, and then with an additional 6th one: earn, spend, save, protect, borrow, and pay for education. So one of the things that's nice about Cash Course is that we spend a lot of time advising educators and consulting with them for free to do their work a little bit more effectively, or to just enhance what they're already doing. We, for example, right now are offering a scholarship for professionals to pursue the Accredited Financial Counselor certification with the Association for Financial Counseling and Planning Education. So if you're already working in the field of financial literacy and you're looking to take your professional expertise to the next level, NAEFI has put aside some funding to help do continuing education for professionals in the field. Our next slide has our Smart About Money resource, smartaboutmoney.org. This may be one that you're familiar with. This is our online resource for consumers, for working adults or heads of households, really anyone who just wants to go online on their own and get a personal financial education. This resource offers complete e-learning courses for adults on different financial topics, for example, career planning, saving for emergencies, creating a housing and transportation plan, and much more. We actually have one on healthcare that will be coming out in a couple of months. And these are great. You can log on to SAM, start the course, save your progress, learn more about any number of topics by digging down into our in-depth articles. And Smart About Money actually has an existing partnership with the Financial Literacy Interest Group at the American Library Association. So through that partnership, Smart About Money has been providing additional continuing education funding, scholarships for certifications, a little bit of program funding for Money Smart Week or Financial Literacy Month. There is a page on Smart About Money specifically for librarians. So if you work at a library, you can visit smartaboutmoney.org/librarians to learn more about those resources. One thing I like to point out about SAM, as we call it, Smart About Money, is that it's really a great tool for people working in the field as well as consumers. So if you are walking into a workshop or you want to, teach a quick 5-minute lesson and you yourself need a little refresher on the topic or the subject matter, SAM is a really great place for you to go and get that information for yourself or for your family. Our next slide features financial workshop kits. This is a resource for community educators, and it goes into some specialty topics in personal finance. So Financial Workshop Kits has a great database of in-the-box kits that you can download with a PowerPoint presentation, a guide for the speaker, and activities and evaluations so that you can take this, this workshop, walk right in and be ready to go. Just spend your time interacting with your audience or your students. It takes a lot of time off your plate so that you have more time to do the work that's important to you. So some of the examples of things that we've covered on financial workshop kits, and there's over 40 kits available, so this clearly is not comprehensive. We have a kit on problem gambling. We have one geared towards former inmates, one on preventing foreclosure, and recovering financially from domestic violence. NAEFI has a partnership with the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and their advocates and practitioners have used financial workshop kits quite a bit with their audiences, so hopefully there's something there that could be helpful to you. Next slide. And I briefly wanted to mention our high school resource. I know that community colleges reach a really wide audience. Some of you may have some summer bridge students or dual enrolled students that this may be a good resource for. This is our turnkey financial literacy program for teens. It's designed to be taught in the classroom with a facilitator, a trained educator, either a workshop or a high school classroom. Students learn by doing in order to form positive financial behaviors. So we have competency-based educational modules here. And then the 6 topic areas are aligned with personal financial literacy standards, different state standards as well as national standards. The high school financial planning program's website has just been relaunched. It's a great experience. You can go on there and get all of the learning materials and the teaching materials, including lesson plans, all for free, either online or you can order print materials for free as well. Next slide. So the last thing I want to go into is NIFI's work in research and in advancing the field of financial literacy. We do more than just programs. We also are focused on advancing the field and advancing what we know about how people spend money, how money affects their lives, and different intellectual topics like that. Next. At the National Endowment for Financial Education, we have sort of a bird's eye view of the field. We're connected to a lot of different organizations and different practitioners. So we're able to bring together people working in the field to help advance the conversation and see where we have gaps in our knowledge base. We do things like research forums and convenings, and once we have those, we disseminate talking points or videos from those events so that you can get to know what's going on in the national conversation around financial literacy. We've also published things like the 5 key factors for effective financial education. You can learn more about this on our website. I know I just have a couple of minutes, so I don't want to go too far in depth on this. But we spend a lot of time building and connecting networks of professionals and organizations in this field because we know that we really don't have competitors in this space. We're all working together towards the common goal of helping Americans lead more fulfilling financial lives. And on my last slide here, I just want to briefly mention our primary research. NIFI provides research funding for exploratory projects on personal finance and financial behaviors. So we give grants to major academic research institutions to explore topics like the social influence on financial decision-making or how financially fragile Americans are. We have several projects being published this year, but we have at least a couple every single year that come out. And for every single one, every single grant that is completed and every study that is published, we put together a very easy-to-read executive summary around that topic so that you as a practitioner can learn from that research and fold it into your work. So it's not reading a complete research paper start to finish, although those are available to you if you'd like to read those. But the executive summary really gets at the heart of the research and its findings and why that matters to you as a practitioner in this space. Next slide. So that's everything I have for you today. I have a couple of links here, and I know that these materials will go out to you as well. My contact information is on this slide, and I'm happy to speak with you about questions you have or anything that you want to know more about what NIFI provides. And now I'd like to pass it on to Sharon Worm.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy. So we're going to now switch to sort of a campus level view. I do want to add that we do use all of the resources that our colleagues have just presented, mostly in our curriculum that we provide to our students. But before I do that, my name is Sharon Worm. I'm the Executive Director of Financial Aid and Student Success. I'm in my 30th year of providing financial aid assistance to students. And at TMCC, we've had a pretty robust financial literacy program that we've been developing since 2013. Next slide. It's called, I should have mentioned, it's called the Financial Literacy and Money Education by Students program. It was named by our students when they first created it. So just, you know, here's where Nevada kind of falls in the financial literacy crisis. In early 2018, Wallet had ranked all of the U.S. states, and they had different metrics that they ranked them on, and they used these 3 categories. They had an online test called Wallet Literacy that assesses individual literacy, which is very interesting for folks to use. They also assess based on financial and planning habits and financial knowledge and education. Obviously, it's not a perfect science, but it is a way where they put everybody on the same level playing field in terms of where they seem to stand in these areas. So next slide. So Nevada ranked 39th with a score of 58.57, and we actually were 49th in 2016, so in 2 years we did come up quite a bit, which is really, really exciting. And New Hampshire ranked #1 in the United States with a score of 70.28. So obviously we have a lot of work to do as a state, and you know, we're trying to do as much as we can for our students at Truckee Meadows Community College. Next slide. So a little bit about our cohort default rate. It's kind of confusing the way the cohort default rate works because they use the federal fiscal year. So this is all layman terms here that we've put down, but you can see that from our 15-16 reporting year, which was actually from 2010-11, so students enrolled 8 years ago after they went into repayment on their loans. 4 years ago, we hit an all-time high of 25.3% default rate, which just about made me fall out of my chair that day. And the federal limit is 30%. So we weren't close to the federal limit, and it's 30% default rate over 3 years. Then they impose sanctions. But it was high enough, and it was the highest it had ever been, and it was higher than the national average for two-year public schools. So we were very concerned. And in 2017-18, or in 2012-13, we actually created or in 13-14, excuse me, we created our Flames program, and you can see just since then, our student borrowers, our default rate just came out this fall, and it was 14.3%. So to go down 11% over 4 years is, I've never seen it before. So we're very proud of that, and we're very excited about it. So we created our financial literacy program, Flames, in response to this growing concern about the increasing student debt, which some of my colleagues have talked about. As well as we had a very large outstanding account receivables from students not paying their tuition, so students that were not on financial aid. Obviously, we saw a great need to educate not just our financial aid and our loan students, but all the students on campus. We were really lucky to get started. We had initial funding from United Student Aid Funds from a capacity grant, and we actually got $100,000 each year for 3 years. USA Funds is no longer in existence. They've morphed into, and were purchased by Loan Science, but they still have a program that I'll talk about called Student Connections that we really, Borrower Connect, that we really use. After our grant went away, we were temporarily funded by the college for 2 years, so we sort of limped along, and the budget that we were funded at was about $42,000 a year. So we sort of limped along, and then just this year we attained permanent funding from the college. So we were so excited because, it really reaffirmed the need for the program and ensured its stability, which is really important because it's, hard to make future plans when you're not sure if you're going to exist the next year. And what really helped that permanent funding was our default rate going down so greatly. That kind of, data always shows it's a real strong selling point for folks. Next slide. So who are the Flames and how did we fix this problem? Here's a picture of our current staff of these wonderful student workers who, it's a peer-led program, student-led, student-driven program, and we have a wide variety, as you can see, we have a variety of ages and ethnicities and backgrounds. We have a veteran who works, we have students from the university who have graduated from the community college and still work with us, which then helps students prepare for transfer. And we try to maintain between 8 and 10 student workers in the program at all times. Next slide. So we have our website, which you're welcome to go explore. Again, it's a student-led program. It is supervised, and this is a long title. It's a Nevada System of Higher Education Specialist 2, so NSHE Specialist 2, we call it, for default prevention and financial literacy. What we did after the grant, so the grant paid for a graduate assistant to help create the program, and we found this phenomenal woman who was just unbelievable. So we were able to really create this strong foundation. And we had, and I'll talk a little bit more about our loan debt for our students as we've increased our education of students. The amount of loan dollars that they've borrowed has decreased substantially. So our loan assistant, we had a loan coordinator, we had a loan assistant. Really, we didn't need that position to process loans anymore, but in financial aid, you know, you always have more to do. So we actually restructured the loan assistant position into this default prevention and financial literacy position. And she's in charge of maintaining an 18-page default prevention and debt management plan for the college, and she also supervises our FLAMES program. Like I said, well, 6 to 8 peer mentors, 10 is our optimal number, our max number, and like I said, a wide variety of ages and ethnicities and backgrounds. And they plan the delivery mechanisms and curriculums based on the needs of their peers. So if you were to first start, I would definitely say, you know, why recreate the wheel? Use some of the tools that you've previously heard about, because they're amazing tools. But we've been able to use those in our curriculum. Our students kind of assess what their peers are talking about. They do poll them, do surveys frequently, and every semester they talk about, well, what worked the last semester? What delivery was the best? Where did we get the most students? And they go through, and that has been really one of the most powerful pieces of this program, is that it's students telling, number one, students telling other students, which is always very well received. They hear from their peers much more than they hear from the older folks. And also that they, like I said, they assess what the needs are, and they know best how our students will respond. Next slide. So here's just an example. I won't read through this. You can read through this, but this is the curriculum. It's also on our website. And these are what we're this year focusing on, our topics for our workshops and our different events that we do. Next slide. So last year, in 27-18, we hosted and participated in 106 workshops, 14 tabling events, 18 outreach events, 169 one-on-one sessions, because they do one-on-one peer mentoring with students as well. And so we were able to serve a total number of 10,477 students, and just as a comparison, we have 15,000 students, a little over 15,000 students that attend our college. So we were able to really hit a substantial piece of the population, so we're very excited about that. And then you see there's a picture there, they're being a little cheesy, at tabling one of the events in our student center, and the item on the right is a game that they play. So they do, you know, they try to bring fun into it, so they have games and prizes. And the prizes that they select every year are kind of based on what students are really interested in. So for example, this year, one of the prizes is a collapsible lunch container, because, you know, students can bring their own lunch. They'll save money if they don't have to go to the cafe and spend, you know, $7 to $10 on a lunch. We also have an example of one of our flyers. Last November, we did a money personality type event, and had students come in and, you know, they took a little quiz and they determined what their money personality was, and then the peer mentors then talked about how to approach their finances based on their money personality. It's pretty eye-opening for many of our students. Next slide. So here's the different programs that we offer. Like I said, we have the on-campus events and workshops, tabling, the one-on-one peer mentoring. One thing that we started about 3 years ago is in-person student loan entrance counseling workshops. So financial aid offices are only required by the federal government to have students complete the federal government's entrance interview, which is an online tool, and they have to do that for us as well. But we also say for all first-time borrowers that are supposed to go do this tool, they do this tool, but before they can get to that tool, they have to come to one of our workshops led by our peer mentors and go through, we explain everything. We explain repayment, we explain what they're getting into, really make them think about what they're borrowing, only borrow what you need. And we also joined the Department of Ed Experimental Sites Program for loan counseling, so then a random sampling of subsequent borrowers, so students who borrow a second or a third loan, a portion of them also have to go through a second workshop, which is basically kind of an enhancement of the loan entrance counseling workshop, because we found that the first time somebody goes through a workshop, many times they don't really understand it and it doesn't always resonate with them. But then the second time that they go through it really makes a bigger impact. And we really were a little, not hesitant because we knew it was the right thing to do this experimental sites program, but we were really worried, I guess, that our subsequent borrowers would be upset with us, complain. We have not gotten one complaint about it. So because they come out of that workshop really realizing what they didn't know. And we do pre-tests and post-tests and do a lot of assessment that way. We also have a money booklet that we have created. Our marketing communications department actually has won awards for this money booklet. So if you're interested, or contacts in the last slide, you can always email us and we'll send it to you. It's sent to new degree-seeking students in the fall. And it's basically a roadmap for them with information that they need to know about saving and planning for college and budgeting and all of the information that we've already heard about. The next program that we offer is called the Money Savvy Scholars Program. And it's basically where students who agree, they sign up for this program and they have to meet with a peer mentor once a month for a whole semester and also attend 3 of our events or workshops. And if they do that at the end of the semester, they'll get a $100 grant. Not a lot of money, but for the students that go through it, they really appreciate it. Any money helps, it'll pay for a book. We have an extra credit program where we work with faculty to encourage them to offer extra credit for students who come to the Flames events. We also have a class cancellation program where we reach out to the faculty every year and say, hey, instead of canceling your class and having somebody post a piece of paper where the students come to class and they haven't found out that it's canceled until they get to campus, why don't you let us come in and spend 15 minutes with them so it's not a wasted trip for them, and we'll just talk about what we do with Flames and kind of answer any questions that they might have. So we offer that as well. Next slide. We have our primary activity in social media is our Facebook account, and also part of our programs that we do with students is that we give out a monthly, we hold a random drawing, or we give out a prize for the most Facebook likes from a student for that month, and then they win a little packet of swag from us to encourage them to just go online and keep reading, and hopefully that means that they'll keep doing it after the prize. And then we also have a YouTube account in process, and this is a link to one of our YouTube videos, and I won't play this, but I encourage you to go online and look at it. It's very humorous because it's created by our students, and so they really resonate. And in that picture, you see we have the cash man costume, we call it, where we have about 5 of these $100 bill outfits that the students will wear to some of the events that we have on campus, and that's another way to get students' attention because they're wondering why people are dressed the way they are. Next slide. So just a little bit about, for those folks who are curious, and what else did we do to lower our default rate? So in 2012, we created our default prevention debt management plan. Like I said, it's 18 pages. It's pretty comprehensive. It's got data and statistics, and then it's got all of the steps that we have. And I have a little table at the end that shows kind of what things we put into place which year. We do require the in-person student loan entrance counseling for first-time borrowers. We do participate in that experimental sites program that I talked about. We also, we begin contacting students about their loan status by phone and email because all of the data shows that students respond to their school before they'll respond to a servicer or the Department of Ed, unfortunately. So they will pick up the phone if they know that we're calling, and by having our student workers call them, it's again another contact peer-to-peer where they're more likely to pay attention. We call students in their grace period, so those students that have either graduated or fallen below 6 credits, they have a 6-month grace period, and so we'll call them and let them know, hey, they're going to hear from their servicer, but we let them know you're going to hear from your servicer and you need to pay attention and you have this much time, and then you're going to have to start repayment on your loan or go back to school, and then here are the steps that you need to take. We do call our delinquent borrowers monthly, and we do use loan science Borrower Connect. It's a piece of software that we use that helps us track our calling and tells us how late are they, and that will kind of influence the information that we give them, but we call them monthly. Our student workers call them, and that's one of the metrics they're held to, and that they have to report back on that, and we can actually track who does how many calls every month. Again, we have our workshops and our events that we talked about already, and we also connect with our faculty to ask to offer the opportunity to do in-class presentations, and so a lot of our first-year experience faculty will, who teach that class, will have us come in, and some of our other faculty, some of our business faculty, entrepreneurship, some of our other folks will have us come and do in-class presentations, and we'll do that at any time and try to meet all of their needs. They do also assist students with filling out the FAFSA. So we in the Financial Aid Office have 4 kiosks that we have available for students to fill out their financial aid application. And oftentimes it's a little difficult to work our front counter and answer phones and then run back and forth with someone who's sitting at the kiosk. So we have our Flames peer mentors. That's their primary responsibility. One of their primary responsibility is to help people with their FAFSAs. And that's keeping them pretty busy this month, as you can imagine. And then again, we provide resources to students about financial aid, scholarships, and personal financial literacy. So at their desk, at the Flames desk where they sit, we have all kinds of flyers, information that we give out, and of course we give that out at all of our tabling events and all of our other events. Next slide. So here's our default plan timeline of when we did what. So when our default rate hit so high from that 10-11 enrollment year, that was the year we had just we just converted to PeopleSoft, which is a wonderful software program, and we tried as a college. We did automatic loan packaging, and that's where someone applies for financial aid and you award them a loan, whether they ask for one or not, because they don't typically ask for one. And then students can click on the loan, they accept the loan, and it directed them to the Department of Education to do the loan, all of the steps with their documents, the master promissory note, and the online entrance counseling. And then once all that was completed, we got the information, and then the loan was dispersed. It was very easy for students to borrow thousands of dollars, sometimes up to at that time $9,000 a year. And sometimes they thought, well, I have to, because they didn't understand that it was an offer. They thought it was a requirement. So we stopped loan packaging, and at the time, we didn't know our default rate was going to go up, right? Because our default rate went up 4 years later. But our president at the time felt very strongly about making sure that students understood what the ramifications were. And I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. We created additional loan education steps. The next borrower, the next year, in 12-13, we had them view financial literacy videos. The next year, we contracted with Borrower Connect to call the borrowers. The next year, we implemented an online loan request form, which made it very easy for students to apply for loans and easier for us to help give them more information. And then we started having Borrower Connect call late-stage delinquency students. And then we've continued to refine Flames and participated in experimental sites. So in addition to how our default rate lowered, over the last 5 years, our loan borrowing has gone down 63%. So in 2014, we had students borrow $10 million in student loans, and just this last year, they borrowed $3.7 million. And our enrollment did not drop that in the same corresponding fashion. It was really students only borrowing what they needed and really thinking about the things that they wanted to do to borrow. Next slide. Did I lose you? Oh, here we go. So what can you do? First, look at your institutional data to determine your need, develop a recommended budget. We had restructured an existing staff, hired peer mentors, tried to make sure we had incentives. We created a proposal for the institution. Again, we identified the critical topics that the students need help in, and then we also do a lot of training. All of our peer mentors watch a lot of webinars and research other programs online. Next slide. We attend any financial aid and financial literacy conferences, visit other institutions. We welcome anybody to come visit us. We're happy to host you for a day and show you what we do, and so you can get more information. You can bring a team. Create programming like I talked about, and students will respond to. We house our program in a high traffic area where there's a lot of students that walk by and see them. We really have to track data and findings so that we can determine what works best, and we apply for outside grant funding, which primarily provides food and wage supplements for us. Next slide. So any questions? I have two contacts here. I'm on the bottom, but then the person on the top, Sherry Mathieson, is our specialist for default prevention and financial literacy, so you're welcome to contact either of us if you have questions. And now I think it's time for the overall questions from the audience.
Thank you, Sharon, and to Amy for providing such helpful information. In a second, I'm going to open it up for questions, but to start us off, some of you may be wondering how you can get a copy of the slides for this presentation. So as we mentioned earlier, this webinar is recorded and it will be made available on our website in the coming weeks, and you can find that at consumerfinance.gov. Also, if you would like to receive additional information about this presentation, you can always email the CFPB, and that email address is CFPB_FinX, which is FINEX @CFPB.gov. Okay, Allison, would you open up the line for questions?
Thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1 and record your first and last name clearly when prompted. Your name is recorded to introduce your question, and to withdraw your question, you may press *2. Once again, if you would like to ask a question, please press *1. One moment, please, for our first question. At this time, I'm not showing any questions.
Okay, we don't have any online either. So yet again, if participants have any questions, feel free to email us or visit consumerfinance.gov. I would like to thank our presenters and those of you who had listened to this webinar. We will now conclude the webinar.
This now concludes today's conference. All lines may disconnect at this time.